All right, page 8 and 9. This is lesson 1-3 on rounding. Rounding means changing a number to the nearest tens, hundred, thousand, and so on. Place value is used when rounding numbers. You've got to be able to know what place value you're talking about. Okay, so some people or students can visualize using the number line. So let's just take a look at this that I box in right here really quick. 34 is closer to 30. So 34 is rounded to the nearest 10 is 30. So really what we want you to learn is the middle is the cutoff point, whether you're going to go round up or to the right or round to the left and go down. So 34, so this would be, this first is 30, this is 31, the next dash is 32, 33, 34. So if we rounded 34, it would be, to the nearest 10, it would be 30. If I chose 36 in here, 35 or 36, we would go up to 40 based on our rules. The next number line they use is this one right here. And now notice we are rounding to the nearest hundreds, whether it's going to be 500 or 600. So visualize what number they're asking for. In this case, they're asking for 580. So if you put 580 on the number line, there it is. So this is 500, 520, 510, 520, 530, 540, 550, 560, 570, 580. So that's where it would go, 590 and then 600. So you can see that 580 to round to the nearest hundred would be 600 because it's closer to the 600 than it is 500. So follow the steps in these examples. Round 2,472 to the nearest thousands. So this is what they'll teach you in the book, and I'll kind of change it right now as we go. It says find the digit in the rounding place. So they asked for the nearest thousand. What I would tell my students and teach you in my room would be to underline the number in the thousands. And how do I know that 2 is in the thousands? Remember, every number has a decimal. So 2 is in the 1, 7 is in the tens, 4 is in the hundreds, and 2 is in the thousands. Then look to the digit to the right. If it's 5 or greater than 5, you're going to add 1 to the digit in the rounding place, or in this case, to the digit that you underlined. Okay, so they want you to look at the neighbor to the right, which in this case is a 4. Now it says if it's less than 5, in this case it's a 4, leave the digit in the rounding place alone. Okay, so as you can see, they've highlighted the neighbor, which is a 4, and 4 is less than 5. So we're going to leave the 2 alone. And there it is. The number that we underlined at the beginning stays the same. In all digits, change each digit to the right of the rounding place to a 0. So that 4 becomes a 0, that 7 becomes a 0, and that 2 becomes a 0. Because on a number line, 2472 is closer than 2000 than it is 3000. So rounded to the nearest thousand, your answer would be 2000. Example 2, round 796 to the nearest 10. So you have to understand what they're asking for. In this case, I'm going to go step number 1, find the digit in the rounding place, which is tens. So every number has a decimal. There's my decimal. This is 6 is in the 1, 9 is in the 10, so I'm going to underline it. There it is. And then I'm going to do a little arrow to my neighbor, which I know is the 6. If it is 5 or greater than 5, add 1 to the digit in the rounding place. Well, 6 is greater than 5, so 6 is greater than 5. So that number that I underlined, I'm going to add 1 to, okay? 9 plus 1 is going to become 10. So I'm going to just kind of, they show this in step 3. 9 plus 1 is 10. So you're going to increase the digit to the left of the rounding place by 1. So this over here, 9 plus 1 is 10. And then that means I'm also going to increase that 7 up by 1. And that's going to give me 8. So I have an 8 for the 7. It's not a very good 8, and I apologize. An 8 for the 7. The 9, because we did 9 plus 1 gave you 10, that's going to be a 0 anyways. And then we know change both the digit rounding place and the digits to the right of the rounding place, which is the digits to the right of the underlying number, becomes 0. And that is how we get 800. So if you look on a number line, 796 is going to be closer to 800. Excuse me, 796 is going to be closer to 800, then it's going to be closer to 790 because we're rounding to the nearest 10. Okay? So for your assignment on page 9, again, no reason to deal with the tan box and no reason to deal with the last two problems. You are only doing 1 through 16. Okay? And I only need your answers. However, it will be very helpful for you to have a scrap piece of paper and do these problems on paper. And then you're going to go into Schoology and just submit your answers. Okay? Now, I do need to make a few things clear on this. I'm going to do one problem, maybe two problems here, but there are sections on this assignment. Notice numbers 1 through 4, they want you to round to the nearest 10. In 5 through 8, they want you to round to the nearest 100. 9 through 12, you're rounding to the nearest 1,000. And number 13 through 16, you're rounding to the nearest 10,000. All right, so I'm going to do two problems. I'm going to do number 1 and number 9 to help you, okay? Remember, every number has a decimal. So if I put my decimal here, now I know my place value. 4 is in the ones, 8 is in the tens. I'm going to go back to my directions and I'm going to underline the number that's in the place that they want me to round to. So 8 is in the tens. I'm going to underline my 8. I'm going to draw my arrow to the 4. And then that rule is if it's 5 or greater, if the neighbor is 5 or greater, you're going to add 1. But if it's less than 5, you're going to leave the underlying number the same. Well, 4 is less than 5. So keep the 8. So I'm going to keep the 8 the same. And all numbers after the underlying number become 0. So when I round 84 to the nearest 10, 84 is closer to 80. All right, tries 2, 3, and 4. Remember, you're rounding to the nearest 10. So to help you, this one, 7 is in the tens, 8 is in the tens, and the 6 is in the tens. And remember, I know that because if every number has a decimal, I know how to put where to start on my place value system with my decimals. Okay, so you try those, even though I've helped you a little bit. Let's go down to number 9. I have to round to the nearest 1,000. Every number has a decimal. 5 is in the ones, 7 is in the tens, 6 is in the hundreds, 2 is in the thousands. Underline it, because that's what they asked you to do. Draw an arrow to your neighbor. There it is. My neighbor is a 6. That is greater than 5. So I'm going to add 1 to the underlying number. So if I did, put my 1 right here, if I did 2 plus 1, I'm going to get 3. And I'm kind of going in my directions there. That is supposed to be a 3. All right. Now I go down to that step number 3. Change each digit to the right of the underlying decimal or the rounding place, which in this case was the 2 in the thousands. All of these numbers, 6, 7, and 5, will turn into 0. 6 becomes a 0, 7 becomes a 0, and 5 becomes a 0. So my answer is 3,000. 2,675 when rounding to the nearest thousand is closer to 3,000 than it is 2,000. All right, you are going to finish all the other problems. Do your best. Make sure you watch this video. Make sure you use the tools. You can use the place value chart in the tools folder to help you.